While a lot of REDD+'s work requires stakeholder engagement, reporting, and international liaising, the means and the end intersect where it matters the most, in the forest. The forest is where the team designs test plots, collects data, applies their science and modules, and where the stakeholders' livelihoods and way of life are intimately manifested. It is where the Forest Department and REDD+'s team of technicians spend most of their time, generating invaluable results. For Belize to qualify for carbon credits, the REDD+ technicians must carry out extensive field research to gather and monitor data about Belize's forest.
My name is Sumit Betancourt. I'm a technician for the REDD+ Readiness Project under the National Climate Change Office. The primary role of the REDD+ technicians is the collection and analysis of data from the FOLU sector in order to produce a greenhouse gas emissions and removal profile for the country. We work very closely with the Forest Department in order to collect the necessary data through two methods. The first being the collect earth mapping process, where we conduct land use and land use change assessments using remotely sensed data facilitated through the collect earth tool. The second method is through ground-based assessments through the permanent sample plot network, which encompasses both forest and non-forest vegetation.
While global accredited data are reliable, the most accurate data comes through actual testing, monitoring, and analysis of a jurisdiction's forest. To this end, the establishment and studying of sample plots are crucial.
So permanent sample plots are intended for long-term standardized monitoring of forests in Belize. There are four general criteria to follow when establishing a permanent sample plot, and it includes the parent material and soil type must be homogeneous, the area must be accessible, it must be far enough from human disturbances, and of course the area must have long-term institutional support. Initial work on PSPs began under the Forest Planning and Management Project with the establishment of 30 permanent sample plots between 1992 and 1997. This provided a comprehensive data set on tree structure and forest stand. Presently, the network is up to 83 plots, and it encompasses both forest and non-forest vegetation, and it's spread across the country.
Different methodologies are employed for sampling forest plots versus non-forest plots. The difference is mainly in the plot designs. For mature forests, the plot measures 100 by 100 meters and are set up with standard measurements to allow for monitoring over time.
For secondary broadleaf plots as well, the plot design is a bit different in the sense that it measures 20 meters by 100 meters and has 5 subplots. And now in terms of non-forest plots, which includes naturally occurring grasslands, ferns, shrublands, as well as fallow lands, the design is different in that the plot measures 10 meters by 100 meters. It has 5 subplots. However, in terms of sampling, we get what is known as vegetation sample or destructive sampling. We measure 1 meter square within each subplot, and we collect what's known as the above ground biomass. So that's anything above the soil. So for instance, in open savannas, which is dominated by sedges and grasses, we measure a 1 by 1 meter vegetation area, and we cut the samples, weigh it, and from that we also remove a handful, roughly sample, and we bring it back to dry within our oven here at the office.
The rigorous scientific methods applied to gather the data cannot be overemphasized, and therefore, the REDD+ technicians utilize advanced tools to ensure accuracy in data collection.
Accuracy is an important part of the work that we do, and so we do utilize specific equipment and tools in order to ensure that we develop accurate data or collect accurate data. This includes the use of, for instance, GPS, which we use for navigation purposes, as well as to locate the plot, and after establishment actually record the coordinates so we can return and actually remeasure it.
The field technicians are very well trained and equipped to carry out the data collection and monitoring exercises.
So now that we've demarcated the plot, it's time for us to do the actual assessment, and that involves tagging each individual trees, giving its life form, whether it's a tree, a sapling, whatever the case may be, the local name, the diameter at breast height, the point of measurement, the coordinates of the tree, crown position, crown form, and any other description that we can see or identify on the tree, for instance, if it's in fruit.
3.5, Nording 16.3,
Every single tree that we've assessed within the 100-meter square plot, each tree has two permanent markings, the first being a tree tag number and the second being the point of measurement being painted. This is important because these PSPs are intended for long-term forest monitoring, and so we need to consistently measure at the same points. So for example, the point of measurement is painted, and every time we come for remeasurements, we always measure the diameter of the tree at this exact point so that we can accurately estimate the tree growth over the years. And each tree also has a tag number, as this tag number is really the identifier for the tree. From this tag number, we can tell the total height at the initial point of measurement, the crown form, crown position, and in some cases, as we know, the pine ecosystem consistently has fire impacts, and so some trees might fall or they just might die and go through their life cycle. And so we always come back and look for this tree tag number, for instance, number 11. And in some cases, this might not be here, and we need to understand what had happened. And that allows us to understand the dynamics within this patch of forest.
To ensure that data accurately reflects the various regions of Belize's forests, REDD+'s technicians set up sample plots across the country.
It is very important that we sample forests across the country because we want an accurate estimation of the forest dynamics that occur in Belize. And so we establish, for instance, plots in the north, in the south, and central Belize. As we know, there are different factors affecting forests in the south compared to the north.
While REDD+, through the National Climate Change Office, leads the work, the Forest Department is a natural and valuable partner.
The Forest Department is the lead in the fieldwork activities and the data collection, and the REDD+ project provides the funding and the personnel for the Forest Department to be able to conduct the fieldwork activities. This fieldwork activity and this data collection provides important reporting numbers and important information for the country of Belize to report in terms of how our forests are growing, the carbon stock estimates that our different forest types have, and our different land use categories.
The Geospatial Monitoring Unit of the Belize Forest Department works to improve management through applied research, education, improved monitoring, and reporting technology.
The Geospatial Monitoring Unit was established in 2018 as a unit that assists the different programs from sustainable forest management to protected areas and wildlife management in terms of assisting the programs to look at geospatial information to improve decision making for the department and for the ministry. We have been using that information to guide the department itself in its strategies when it comes to its restoration strategies, looking at hotspots across Belize where restoration efforts can be used. Also, when it looks at areas for looking at forests converted to other land use in terms of deforestation, looking at areas of disturbance as well across the country. And it gives us a better idea in terms of where we are as a country.
The data gathered from the sample plots plays an important role in how Belize is able to leverage its favorable position as a carbon sink and a responsible steward of its natural resources. The United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC, is an international environmental treaty adopted and implemented by countries all around the world in 1994 to address the issue of climate change. More recently, in 2015, under this framework convention, participating countries signed the Paris Agreement, making firm commitments to limit global warming through concrete and measurable actions. Under this agreement, countries submit their plans for climate action and commitments. Monitoring compliance with these commitments requires that each country report on its emissions as well as its carbon stocks over time.
Bear in mind also that in addition to measuring and reporting our emissions, we have also made commitments to reduce emissions over time, and these commitments are contained within our nationally determined contributions.
Under the Paris Agreement, 3 tiers have been established to describe the level of scientific sophistication used by countries in assessing their greenhouse gas emissions and carbon sinks. Tier 1 is the basic method, Tier 2 intermediate, and Tier 3 the most demanding in terms of complexity and data requirements. Tiers 2 and 3 are sometimes referred to as higher tier methods and are generally considered to be more accurate.
So in Belize, we're aiming for what we call a Tier 3 assessment of our emissions. Tier 3 differs from Tier 1 and Tier 2, and there are only 3 tiers. In that tier 3 is where a country uses national estimates of its carbon emissions, carbon stocks. It does detailed analysis of land use change, how the land is changing, say from forests into other categories like settlements or agricultural lands.
For Tier 3, high-resolution satellite imagery is collected on a regular basis to assess changes in land cover. The results are used to determine trends in land use change and create models to predict emissions in the future. Through these rigorous scientific methods, Belize has established a forest emissions reference level as a baseline against which to monitor future assessments of greenhouse gas emissions, as well as carbon absorbed from the atmosphere through song forest management and reforestation. For Belize and other countries embarking on a REDD Plus program, the reliability of data collected is essential for maximizing the economic benefits from the country's responsible forest management and conservation efforts.
We had created our reference level for the period 2001 to 2015. And over those 15 years, we estimated what our average emissions was from the land use sector, right? Forestry and land use. From the year 2016 to 2018, we measured what the emissions were after having engaged in some forest conservation initiatives. Like, for example, we declared the Northern Corridor. There was a Central Corridor that's being protected. There's a Maya Forest that's being protected. We increased patrols in the Chicky Bowl over the past 3-4 years. So all of this has had measurable impact. We have saved emissions of about around roughly 4 million, a little bit over 4 million tons of carbon dioxide from 2016 to 2018.
The recorded result of Belize's forest management is applaudable and positions us well to benefit from carbon credit.
Having gone through that review process for our emissions estimates, Belize can then pursue results-based payments through various options. I mean, you can negotiate, if available, with a bilateral entity. You can seek financing for REDD Plus activities on the general market, international market. There's also options to seek financing. Currently, there's a window open for countries to seek financing or payments for REDD Plus results from the Green Climate Fund. It's significant for a country like Belize because, one, we're small. Two, these are potential revenues that prior to the existence of REDD Plus would not have existed, right? And depending on the dollar value for the carbon credit, 4 million tons could translate into a significant amount of money to support forest conservation. For example, if it's $4 a ton, we might get 16 million Belize dollars. If it's $20 a ton, then you can see the potential there.
After decades of being good stewards of our natural resources, balancing the interests of society and the future generations, Belize, through the REDD Plus project, is poised to reap the benefits through the trading of carbon credits.